Today we're going to be reviewing the Textron NGSW. A viewer had actually asked me to do a review on it, an actual real review, pros, cons, etc. Because everything that's out there is just promotional videos. Like, I guarantee that anybody that actually is allowed to shoot that right now is getting a paycheck, and the company, Textron, is probably reviewing the footage before it can even enter YouTube to make sure it's approved. And the reason they ask that is because this weapon isn't going to go into military service. It's going to wind up on the civilian market. Would it be worth it for you to buy it? Now, if you haven't been following my videos, because I go into great depth why none of those weapons are sufficient to ever replace the M4 carbine, go check those out, but I'll give you a really brief summary, because there's two major points why. One, the weight. The ammunition is the problem. Now, I know a lot of people are throwing around that it's 30% lighter than 5.56. Well, M855 weighs 185 grains. 30% lighter than that is 129.5 grains. It's going to be shooting a 130 grain projectile. The projectile alone would be all it could have to be 30% lighter. There's no way it's 30% lighter. We know it's going with a 130 grain projectile. It's going to have at least minimal 50 grains of powder, and the casing is going to be minimal 30 grains, probably something closer to 100. So this real super generous number I'm giving is 210 grains. That's heavier than 5.56 by quite a bit. The realistic number is probably going to be something like 250, maybe somewhere even closer to 300 grains. The next is the recoil.
Yeah, it's a little more recoil than a 5.56.
Due to a really inconvenient thing called physics, it's going to have quite a bit more recoil than the 5.56. Because it's accelerating a 130 grain projectile to the same velocity as a 5.56, maybe even a little bit more. So you're going to be looking at, well, a 5.56 projectile, the current ones we're shooting is 62 grains. 62 times 2, that's what, 124? It's pretty close to 130 grains. You're going to be looking at maybe double, a little bit more than double the same recoil as a 5.56. It's probably going to be closer to 3 times the recoil over 5.56. So, now that we've confirmed, no, it's never going to replace the 5.56. See, the military made the right choice when they went from a rifle down to a carbine. Because statistically speaking, most engagements happen within 300 yards. So we're going to make a rifle better suited for 0 to 3. Going with something like that 6.8 or a 308 or something like that would be like me selling the furnace in my house and buying central air because 3 months out of the year it gets hot. It makes no sense. The wide majority of the time it's going to be cold. So I'm going to want a furnace over central air. Going with something like the 6.8 or a 308 or one of those full-length cartridges over 5.56 makes no sense because very few engagements happen outside of 300 yards. You want to plan for the rule, not the exception. Not to mention there's a designated marksman inside the units anyway that's there for those exception long-range shots. So, the biggest problem this is going to have when it hits the civilian market is the system. Because it shoots a brand new cartridge and they talk about how the rifle is made specifically for that cartridge, it's going to be really hard to rechamber it in something we all have like 5.56 or 308. So chances are it will hit the shelves with that particular cartridge.
The difference is that we view the ammunition and the weapon as a system. So it's a completely unique new design with a push-through feed and eject system. And because of that, it allows us to do things with weapons that you can't do in the current offerings that our soldiers carry.
There's just not structure behind that cartridge. What you're probably going to have to do is buy that cartridge specifically from Textron, hope that the cartridge catches on and doesn't just fade into history under one of those weird cartridges that you only see on future weapons. What I would be doing if I was the company is rolling out really cheap firearms, you know, something like an AR-15 or something like that, chambered in that cartridge to start building the structure to be able to support that gun, because it's going to be expensive. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be wildly expensive. This way, the infrastructure and support is there, so when that thing hits the civilian market, there's already cartridges being manufactured, there's already distributors with those cartridges on hand, and because of the ammo crunch right now, and the way things are and how guns are selling, you could totally make like an AR-15 or an AR-10 platform that shoots that particular cartridge and start rolling them out now and building infrastructure. This way, when that thing finally fails at the military trials, because the SIG is going to win. It's without a doubt the best candidate. It's the most familiar looking. It's very close to a 308. Like, it uses a kind of a 308 case. So taking that on and just replacing the 308s in military service with that rifle kind of makes sense, because it's ballistically superior. It's got similar recoil to a 308. Chances are what will happen is the military will buy a bunch of those SIGs and then they'll just get mothballed. It'll be another SCAR program. Now, that was okay for us because the SCAR program was really awesome, because when this came out, the AR-10s that were out there, yes, you had the M14s, which the reliability is arguable, and then you had your AR-10 platforms. Way lighter, but I'd call them finicky at best. This bad boy rolls out, and now all of a sudden all the companies have another standard to build more reliable AR-10s to be able to compete with the SCAR. The SCAR came in really light, really reliable, really accurate. It set a new standard, so we benefited from it.
So, but that's what makes it different. The things that make it the same are the ballistic train. You've got a standard 41 primer, you've got standard ball powder. That's all the same. But there's advantages to making this CT. So you can get higher performance out of a CT round than you can out of a conventional round, because this is not relied on to take any of the ballistic load.
When this hits the market, what is it really changing? Yes, it's more lethal than a 5.56, but we don't care, because we're going to be using it. We're not going to use something like that for a main battle rifle. It would make no sense. It's too heavy, it's not practical, it's got a crazy ammunition that'll be brand new at the time. For us, it would be more of a hunting cartridge. So, it's more lethal than what? A 300 Win Mag? No. Any other prominent hunting cartridge? No, not really. The advantages over a 308, they're negligible. The deer ain't going to know the difference. One of the really good positives to this is, this new cartridge, there are some states where they're like, you can't hunt with a bottleneck cartridge. You get this particular rifle, you don't have a bottleneck cartridge anymore. So you'd be able to hunt in those states with that particular cartridge. Yeah, they'd probably eventually change the laws, but right now, it would make it so you could hunt. And how long would it take them to change the laws? I don't know. So you could buy the Textron rifle, whatever they're going to name it when they decide to roll it out to the civilian market, because they're clearly not going to get the military contracts, and hunt for a while. One of the biggest problems I noticed with that is the ejection port location. When you're building a rifle, I mean, we're not engineers here, but I mean, this crap's pretty obvious. You never put the ejection port where the user's going to put their hands. Even the SCAR had a lot of problem, because see how I'm doing a magwell holder right now? The charging handle, if I had it on this side, would hit your thumb. That's why mine's on this side, because I don't know if I'm going to do a magwell hold. You just don't know. You see some game pop out, it just happens all natural. You could be holding wherever. Well, on the Textron rifle, they have the ejection port right here. It's going to wind up causing malfunctions. Even when the guy is shooting it, I don't know how you guys do it, but when I go up to a barricade, like if this is the barricade, I drive my magwell into it, push up against it, give myself a nice stable platform, and then I break my shots. I use my shoulder, my whole body weight, and I drive into it. You couldn't do that with that particular rifle, because the ejection port would get all plugged up. It would be blocked, you would cause malfunctions. If you're to do a magwell hold, you'd block the ejection port. Even in the video, like, he almost blocks the ejection port. I think he might have in the next shot, because all of a sudden there's a cutscene.
have the increased range, but a more manageable recoil, so that the soldier is able to reliably engage targets repeatedly.
But it's right there. A lot of people hold their rifles right there. Especially if you're shorter, you're going to have a tendency to cover up that ejection port and induce malfunctions. Not cool at all. So, would I buy that rifle, and what would I have to see in order for that rifle to be feasible to me? Right now, if it were to come for sale, right now, okay, the military contracts are done, they've lost, now they need to try to recoup some of their research and development money, so they start rolling it out on the open market. I wouldn't. The ammo's not available. It's a different type of ammo. What are the pros and cons to that ammo? I don't know yet, because the military went ass backwards in this particular one. The military always goes to the civilian market, takes our good ideas, and militarizes it. In this particular incident, because of all the gun laws that are happening, and the major states like New York and California, where there'd be a lot of gun owners putting a demand on the market for something like this to be made, you can't have stuff like that. So the military is trying to design the weapon from scratch, and then we're going to get the leavings from it. And that's just not how things work. So I'd have to see it rolled out in the civilian market for a long time, like probably 8 years or so, to know that it's not going to just be a jam-o-matic or something like that. Then I would have to see solid production for the ammo. Major companies like Winchester, Remington, stuff like that, manufacturing that ammunition, and I would have to see it on the shelf. So I'm not trying to buy ammo and it just doesn't exist. Or I have to special order it from Textron or something like that. It would have to be widely available. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, or at least found it entertaining. If you'd like to help support the channel, I got my Patreon right there. I also have affiliate links in the description down below. Even if you don't buy what that link is for, just clicking on that link and doing the Amazon shopping you're going to do anyway, I had a little kickback for it because you went there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.